Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden, and this moderately okay-looking guy next to me, his name's Tim, and this is The Second Legacy, and thank you for stopping by. Today, we have got so much goodness. I'm back in the war wagon, as you can see, and not a moment too soon, Tim, because we have Baltimore and Everytown for gun safety turning their back on ATF, biting the hands that feed them, suing them out of existence, and I can't wait to show you why. We've got all sorts of things across the board. A G3 you're going to love, and then also Gavin Newsom got some bad news yesterday. This is Second Legacy, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think in the comments field. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. And with that, Tim, how was that for a setup? That sounded pretty tasty.
That's pretty good. Well rehearsed. You're getting better.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm trying my hardest. When I don't hit the rumble strips and just fall off the bike. Yeah, I'm good. I got this. I believe in myself and us, Tim. And you know what else I believe in?
Dr. Button Pusher.
Sweet irony. Oh, yes, you're right. Is he here?
There he is.
Oh, he's here in rare form. I love it. Yeah, but irony, Tim. Irony. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. That's what we've always been told growing up, right? Even in the 1910s, right?
Yeah. You try not to, but sometimes I guess you have no choice. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to. Yeah. Sometimes you have to, because it turns out they want their toys, Tim. The gun controllers want their toys, and the ATF has their toys, and they will have their toys. So they're suing them. Check this out. Baltimore City, so that's a gun control city and a gun control state, if you guys are keeping track at home, is suing the ATF over improper denial of gun crime data. Well, hold on a second, Tim. What would they possibly want that they don't have already?
Probably information on the actual gun owners.
See, that's the typical negativity, Tim, because this is obviously about preserving rights the whole time. This wouldn't even hurt them. Because let me bring you in some backstory, and then we'll kind of unveil the cookie real slow. All right. So it turns out that Baltimore, with the help of Everytown for Gun Safety, which is a Bloomberg-funded gun control group, Tim. I mean, I'm sure you're aware. It turns out they did a Freedom of Information Act. Do you know what they were asking for, Tim?
Information on gun owners.
Well, I'll tell you.
I don't know.
You think you know. You think you know. Okay. So what they were asking for, Tim, it was so simple. They just wanted all of the database of the ATF that showed the manufacturer chain through the distribution chain for all firearms in order to save the children and put together some data. I mean, it was a Freedom of Information request. The only one problem, Tim, I mean, it's a minor flaw, like smidgen. It's federally illegal.
So what they're asking for ATF to hand over information that tracks the gun from the manufacturer to the dealer?
Through the distributor, which would then naturally go into the individual. They're asking for the entire chain of custody, going from left to right, all the way from origin to in destination, in order to really affect gun crime in Baltimore.
Well, unless the ATF plans on going to every FFL and scooping up that information, it's not like it's automatically reported to anybody.
Well, the individuals isn't, but they have a database of all the manufacturer to distributor, which they are not allowed to federally share.
I see.
Because they can only share it with individual crimes in certain cases.
Right.
Because you know what? It's weird because it's almost like congressional people in the early 2000s knew where the gun controllers were going, and they put laws on place which would prevent this very thing. Yeah, this is, oh, goodness gracious. Let's go to 2 here, Doctor. Let me bring the people along. Baltimore City has filed a lawsuit against the ATF, alleging that the agency improperly denied critical gun crime data, Mayor Brandon Scott announced on Tuesday. So, okay, this is this week. The lawsuit claims one key federal amendment is blocking cities like Baltimore from getting this information. It's just a small federal amendment. I mean, it's not like it's law.
I know. It's funny how they downplay things like that, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Isn't that weird? It's so odd because I mean it's a freedom of information. They need freedom. We like freedom, and information is so helpful. What could go wrong with that?
But they keep calling it gun crime data. Where's the crime?
Yeah.
Where's the crime in legal manufacturing and transferring to distributors? Yeah. Where's the crime there?
It turns out, Tim, that Baltimore has a gun problem, not a crime problem, a gun problem, and so therefore, if the government of Baltimore could just get all the ATF's database, which they're not supposed to have, but they do, for all the guns, it could solve so many things. I'm sure that wouldn't be shared anywhere, by the way. But
Well,
let's go to number 3 here.
the question is, though,
Oh, go ahead,
if they
please.
get the data, do they also get an extended license for Adobe so that they don't have search functionality? Because the
Ooh.
ATF pays
Oh,
extra
that's
for that.
true.
Anyway, go ahead.
Man, you are on it. No, that's a very valuable. They do. We heard from Stephen Dettelbach, the director of the ATF at Harvard, talking to Harvard like they're a bunch of 4-year-olds. You're right. We did see that. God, man, you are sharp this morning. Ginkgoba, I love it. I love it. Well, let me show you what they're asking for here because this is so mundane and innocuous. The ATF maintains a database of firearm trace data, which officials can use to track the flow of recovered guns from manufacturer to distributor. So that's how they get
So
everything
now
so
that makes
quickly.
sense to
It
me.
was
Trace data. I guess that's what I was looking
it's
for.
trace data.
Yes.
It's trace data.
But
Right.
once
See, I
again,
told you I
that's
was going to
manually
reveal the cookie
collected.
very slow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm revealing the cookie very slow, Tim.
I gotcha.
I'm playing just the cookie. Anyway, but Scott is the mayor here, says the Bureau denied a Freedom of Information Act request for that data in September, which would have provided city leaders with the top 10 sources of crime guns in Baltimore. What do you bet that they were looking to leverage federal data and collection, which the ATF cannot share legally, in order to sue other
Mhm.
manufacturers and municipalities in order to further propagate their gun control
That's
lawfare? What do you
exact.
bet that might have been it?
That's completely it. They don't. This isn't critical, life-saving data unless you can use it somehow. So how are they going to use the data to
Yeah,
save lives?
exactly.
Well, they're going to
It's so
go
weird.
after manufacturers, which is what they've been trying to do all along. Now, we also have another federal
Yep.
law in place that protects manufacturers from frivolous lawsuits like this. But all they have to do is
Hmm.
identify the manufacturer. They can go after them like what they did to Remington and what they're doing to other manufacturers.
Yep.
Now go after them for their marketing, for their
Hmm.
shareholders, like they're doing to Smith and Wesson. They can sue them because they're putting the company at risk for selling these types of firearms. And
Correct.
all they have to do is identify them, and then they can figure out what frivolous lawsuit to bring and skirt federal law.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And distributors aren't protected under the Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, are they?
Nope.
Because distributors are just sales organizations. The manufacturers manufacture freedom. The distributors just sell it.
Yep.
And there's nothing against suing them. So they're looking for ATF centralized collected data in order to destroy the gun supply chain to achieve their gun control through other means because we're kicking their butts across the board. But anyway, let's continue. Let me show you a tweet because I've always got to bring receipts, Tim. We have to. This is Second Legacy. This is serious stuff. Uh, Mayor Scott, along with Everytown, oh, well, would you look at that? Everytown for Gun Safety showed up, announcing a lawsuit against the ATF over a denied Freedom of Information request to obtain gun tracing data. Now, here's the payoff. ATF denied it over the Tiahrt Amendment, which only allows this data to be given to law enforcement and prosecutors. So, this is sensitive information that is federally protected. Gun controllers wanted to get this data that was federally protected through a Freedom of Information Act. ATF says, no, we can't do that legally, so they sue them.
You think it would be a little easier for them just to find a sympathetic, like prosecutor or law enforcement agency that would just get the data for them? Perhaps the law protects that information even once it's handed off. I haven't read the law.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to.
So
I'm going to in a
okay,
second. That's
okay,
that's the final cookie.
gotcha.
No, but please continue.
No, I was just curious if they're going to find a loophole, because they're all about loopholes, and
Oh,
if they could find a
loopholes.
sympathetic agency and just say, "Well, get us the data," and
Yeah, but then there'd be culpability though. You can't burn your moles, Tim. You
hmm,
got you got to keep those in the pocket. You covered up. So here's where they're really going after, and this is obviously a terrible abuse and a miscarriage of justice. Hence the sarcasm. The big obstacle to this data, according to the complaint, is the Tiahrt rider. This amendment, which was first passed into federal law back in 2003, allows law enforcement and prosecutors to get gun tracing data for specific cases. However, these agencies and individuals are not allowed to share it. The Tiahrt Amendment is why, or Tiahrt Rider is why the ATF denied the request, according to the complaint. But
mm.
don't worry, Everytown law says it's not going to impact privacy of any gun owners, and it's not going to do anything negative. It's all about safety, Tim. It's all about safety.
You're right. The legislators in the early 2000s were on top of things, because not only
Uh
does it
huh.
it keep this information from just falling into anybody's hands that the government may want to hand it off to, like political groups, like these goons, but
Hmm.
it also protects it so that only the information that's relevant to a pending case, it would seem, that information would then be shared with that
Exactly.
particular agency. So they can't, a sympathetic agency couldn't just go out there and say, give us all the data. Because the ATF would go,
Correct.
well, what case specifically do you need this data for?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
They built firewalls.
Yes. Very nicely done,
Exactly what
folks
they
from
built.
early 2000s.
Exactly. Early 2000s. Well, you know what? If you look back, give some credit where credit's due. You got the PLCAA that came out in 2005, I believe. You had the Tiahrt amendments and riders that were in the ATF funding, which came out in 2003. You had the Dickey Amendment, which came out in the late 80s. Yeah, it was pretty clear these people knew where the other guys were going. And they gave us nice little roadmap and little protections. So here's the actual amendment. And listen, Tim, if this seems like it might be out of step for them to sue for this, check this out. This is the Tiahrt Amendment. This is number 6. These amendments are a series of riders attached to appropriations, so all the money, for the ATF and the FBI. First introduced in 2003 and amended over time, today the amendments are understood as prohibiting the ATF from engaging in various firearms-related activities. First, the agency is barred from consolidating or centralizing records maintained by FFLs. There's your registry.
Yep. Aware of that part.
Yeah, we know that one. Second, the agency cannot disclose to anyone the contents from the firearm trace system database maintained by the National Trace System or Center, which tracks the movement of firearms recovered by law enforcement. They knew so well where they were going, they put it into a rider which is tied to the funding for the ATF. You can't do this.
Nice.
These people be crazy.
Yeah.
So that's how the hand is, or the animal is biting the hand that's feeding it, because every time gun safety has spent all this time propping up the ATF and saying they need more funding and they need more this, that, and the other, all now to sue them at the end because they didn't give them their toys.
Generally speaking, I tell people this all the time. Generally speaking, when it comes to legislation, the courts are less likely going to be a little bit more apprehensive on overturning a law that passed the legislative process.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Leading up to it, they'll block certain things and get involved in court cases and state issues. But when it comes to federal legislation, especially with the Supreme Court, there's a higher threshold there for them to just say, oh, you know what, we're going to go ahead and give you this data. Forget that law that was, passed through the legislative process. Let's just go ahead and just ignore that law. Go ahead, give them the data they want. That's a steep, big, tall ask. So it'll be interesting to see.
That's a good way to say it.
It'll be interesting to see how the courts respond to that one, because basically they're asking them to undo federal law. So cool.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what they're asking them to do. That's 100% it. I want my gun crime trace data that is protected inside cases by federal law in order to sue other people from out of state, so we can pull a New York or a New Jersey or a California, because we want gun control so bad and we can't get it through all the federal laws that we're trying to push and locally, because nothing's really working that well. So we're just going to sue them out of the business through lawfare. That way we achieve gun control. Wouldn't you know it? These people are so gross. They are so gross. But Tim, you know what's even grosser? Speaking of gross, look at this segue here. Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom. Did you see that?
Yeah.
What a beautiful segue. Doesn't that name just bring a smile to your heart?
The Hairmeister.
Make you want to take a shower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time you see him, you just think, ugh. It's like after you have an ultrasound on a kidney, that slimy stuff they put on. You look at that and you think, you just want to get it off. It's like he's just slathering it on his hair. It's like,
that's true, because it's true.
I love when the doctor just tries to sneak one in there, but you're already on the next one. Oh, that's so good. It is true because it's true.
Yes.
You know what? Honestly, hold on. I think, Tim, it's only fair for the people of the Second Legacy. Dr. Button Pusher, would you like to say what you said earlier again?
That's true, because it's true.
See, I think it's important, Tim, that we give everybody on the show their voice. I think that's key. And he's right, because it is true. Because Gavin Newsom makes me go, ew. He's like the Grinch who stole Christmas. Well, you know what, Tim? This is one of those segments where you get to choose. Do you want to hear Gavin Newsom's temper tantrum first, or do you want to hear why he's having a temper tantrum first?
Let's set it up so they know why he's having a temper tantrum.
Okay, the setup. Okay, see, I like to mix it up a little bit. This is number 11. All right. So this is from FPC. They won this last night. Federal judge blocks California's SB2 handgun carry bans. Who would have seen that coming? I mean, that is weird. Anyway, let's keep going. From Santa Ana, California, December 20th. Today, Firearms Policy Coalition announced that federal district judge Cormac J. Carney issued a preliminary injunction in its lawsuit against Rob Bonta, blocking enforcement of California's newest ban on firearm carry. The opinion can be viewed here. This is the important part. This is what he says here, because we're going to back this out in 1 second. SB 2's coverage is sweeping, repugnant to the Second Amendment, and openly defiant of the Supreme Court, Judge Carney wrote in his opinion. SB 2 turns nearly every public place in California into a sensitive place, effectively abolishing the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding and exceptionally qualified citizens to be armed and to defend themselves in public. So this is sensitive places, California style. And what I love about this, Tim, is not only is that an amazing way to say what they've done, but this smacks of the same thing that we saw in New York with the Second Circuit. Now we're going to see it in the Ninth Circuit. Are we starting to see a little pattern evolving of what we consistently talk about?
Yeah.
You got one over here, you got one over here.
Absolutely. Boy, that's some pretty strong wording there from the old judge. I'm sure that that made old Newsom happy. The Gavster had to have been just doing backflips and everything in his office, just enjoy I could only imagine. The poor guy.
It's so good.
Yeah. This whole thing's drying his hair gel out.
It is. You have a big heart, Tim. That's what I love about you. I love about you. And I think it's only fair to say what the Gavster said, because Gavster had a bad day.
Yes.
I should make that a t-shirt, and I should also make Salty Shannon, or Shannon Be Salty, a t-shirt. All right. We should have a tyranny collection. Anyway, let's go. Governor Gavin Newsom's statement on concealed carry ruling, quote, defying common sense, this ruling outrageously calls California's data-backed gun safety efforts repugnant. What is repugnant in this is this ruling, which greenlights the proliferation of guns in our hospitals, libraries, and children's playgrounds, spaces which should be safe for all. California will keep fighting to defend our laws and to enshrine a right to safety in the Constitution. The lives of our kids depend on it. Dude, we could do a segment just on this statement.
Dude, we have a right enshrined in the Constitution for our safety. It's called the Second Amendment, you moron. Oh my goodness.
True. But it's not the 28th Amendment. That's Gavster's little baby.
Right.
Enshrining gun control, which no one signed on to, even in his own state.
Well, see, words are violence, and you have a constitutional right to safety. You see where this is going. So not only can we do away with the Second Amendment, but we can also do away with the First, because words have, they can be hurtful, and we all want to be safe in our spaces. And so we're just going to go ahead and enshrine a new amendment in the Constitution that basically strips you of all your other rights. We're going to call that freedom. Yeah.
But you'll be safe, though. But you'll be safe. Because you will be free to be and to be free of to be. I mean, it'll be so great. It'll be so fantastic. Got so excited. This next one. So as we back into this, because I like how we establish a right to safety. Okay, well, let's leave that one alone. Let's go back to the next thing that he said. Green lights the proliferation of guns in our hospitals, libraries, and children's playgrounds. The only problem with that? I mean, it's a small problem, but children's playgrounds and hospitals have been safe places forever.
Yeah.
So his law didn't do anything.
Mm-mm.
What his law did was prevent it from restaurants, certain sidewalks, streets, this line, if it's raining, what to do if it's sunny. I mean, literally, you couldn't carry it anywhere else.
Yeah. Any public area was a safe space.
Yeah.
So
right. Right. So then he goes down the road of he's pulling a Grisham. A Governor Grisham. This executive order saves so many lives. Look how many people we arrested for drug felony use. What? Like that? Your order wasn't even about drugs.
All right.
Yeah, but if we didn't have that order, though, would they have been arrested? I hope so. Yes.
Do you think we could see the data he's using to justify these repugnant laws? Because we have to file a FOIA request to find out what data he's talking about.
That's right. Because, I mean, after all, Tim, California's data-backed gun safety efforts. By the way, Gavin Newsom's repugnant. I just want to throw that out there. I had to.
I think the data,
I had to say
we can probably find the data. It's over on the Gun Violence Archive, I would imagine.
That's right. The one that's going down year over year back at 2019 levels. You mean that one?
Yeah. Down 20%, but we got to stop this violence.
Yeah. It is awkward. So I think the last thing... we can make a game out of this right here, Tim, this statement. So I'm going to read this one more time.
Okay.
And when you hear a common gun control propaganda term, just go ding. Okay.
Yep.
Let's just see how many dings we can get. All right. Here we go. Defying
Ding.
common sense. This ruling outrageously calls California's
Ding.
data-backed gun safety efforts repugnant. What is repugnant is this ruling, which greenlights the proliferation of guns in our hospitals. So we're at 3 in one sentence. And here we go. Let's do the next sentence. California will keep fighting to defend our laws and to enshrine a right to safety in the Constitution. The lives of our kids.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, it's all about the children.
I think I'm getting 5. I'm getting 5 dings on that one. This guy.
It's amazing how they have this some consistency to their narrative, right? It's always about the kids because people.
Always.
I mean, I'm a parent, right? I am concerned about my kids, right? And so they're always going to all these emotional areas to try to bring to justify their arguments, and it's so funny to see them constant. No matter what they say, somehow they tie it to children, even if it's just insane. But anyway.
Except in what case? There's one case they never tied to children because children don't exist. In what case? It's from abortion.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think you wanted me talking about that.
No, I just don't want you to go full 1980s on it. That's all I don't want you to do. You can talk about it, just don't go like rat on it.
Okay.
Oh, goodness gracious. But yeah, no, children don't exist in that case. It's just a clump of cells, and it's a decision between a mother and a doctor, and you guys don't belong in that room, except everything else. Oh, for the children!
Yeah. And we belong in that room, just not that room, but every other room we belong in. Yeah,
we can have a few rooms, but not that room because there's not a child over there. Carry the one gun control pillars of stupid. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go all 1980s if I'm not careful.
Yeah.
But I think it's a careful way. I think it's a careful time to transition safely and for our rights and safety to G3 because it's that time.
All right, let's do this one. So, you have up days and down days when you're looking for goofy gun grabber comments. And this is kind of a mediocre day, right? So there's nothing out there. I really thought there would be more conversation around what just happened with the FPC lawsuit yesterday, but they're kind of scared to talk about it. There's something there they don't want to talk about. Anyway, so, but old Newtown had a little gym. And so if you could throw up number 8, Doc. An unloaded handgun fell out of a first grader's backpack during an afternoon dismissal in Indiana, my home state. Yeah, it's believed that it was put in the backpack inadvertently by someone other than the student.
Who could it be? Who's responsible
inadvertently?
For this,
yeah, because how many times have you just been walking through the house and a gun falls out of its holster into your child's backpack and nobody notices?
I mean, at least twice. At least twice a day.
Gosh,
at least.
There's something here. If only I had the investigative mind of a great journalist like Geraldo Rivera.
Oh, not Geraldo. Oh, that hair.
There has to be something, right? Yeah, I'll never forget him going down into under a building in Chicago looking for a vault from gangland Chicago history in the 1920s, Al Capone and all that stuff. And I made this big buildup and he gets down there and they open up this room. They dig around, move all this stuff around, and there's nothing. Great investigative journalism there. Oh, so much for live TV. I should have known better. Anyway, so what could it be? What are they talking about here? Inadvertently, there has to be a deeper story.
It's inadvertent, though.
Well, there's one thing that I know, and so I went a little Googling a little bit because one thing I know just from being in these discussions for so many years, one thing that criminals, gang members tend to do is hide drugs and weapons on children. And why do they do this? Because they think that law enforcement are less likely to search a child's backpack, to search a child. Like a child in an infant seat. Would you pick that child up and look for a handgun under that child? So they think that they can hide these things there. So could it be, Doc, bring up number 9 for us. This is an article from NBC News, just one example that talks about this phenomenon, right? All right. So,
phenomenon. Okay, yeah, it's a phenomenon.
All right.
Yeah.
So anyway, police said gang members know they are under increased surveillance, so they take added measures to try and hide their weapons. Some use children as young as 12 years old to carry weapons for them because they believe police are less likely to stop and question a teen or a child. So inadvertently fell into a backpack. Nah, I'm going to go with somebody's got gang connections perhaps in that household or criminal intent because guns just don't wind up in children's backpacks inadvertently. Call me crazy.
Yeah.
It ties back into this whole thing where they don't want to talk about the actual problems we have in this country. If you take gang violence, just the gang violence statistics out of our national statistics, you'll find that America, I posted about this on Twitter, is the most peaceful first world country in the world, with our gun population being higher than our people population. Just take out the gang problem, and all of a sudden we become incredibly peaceful. So we don't have a gun problem, people. We have a gang problem. And they think that by taking your guns away, the gangs are going to become lawful and quit seeking out firearms.
Yeah.
Unlikely. How about we tackle the gang problem? But anyway.
Yeah, isn't that odd? No, I think it's personally odd because inadvertently, I mean, like sometimes, Tim, we just throw things in our notes section for a show, and inadvertently they come out in gold. I mean, sometimes. Like that Pickles and Ding Dongs episode.
Yes.
Wow, didn't see that coming. I mean, who does?
That was totally inadvertent.
Who does though?
Yeah,
it was inadvertent. Yeah, I hate when things like guns end up in first grader backpacks. Yeah, it's just. I mean, like I had it here.
Yeah.
I was packing the lunches. I mean, it's just. I mean,
whoops, my Glock fell in there. How did it?
Yeah, I mean, you get busy, man. Like, you know, you're making a PB&J. You throw the PB&J inside the sandwich. You put it in a. It happens. It does.
Yeah,
obviously. So a little grace, Tim. A little grace, because people are people.
Cut them some slack. There, accidents happen.
Yeah, cut them some slack. Yeah, I mean, but we should definitely take away all the gun rights. People are so stupid.
Speaking of taking away gun rights. let's
we have a new announcement, don't we?
We do. Giffords, bless their little souls. They made a post, and if you could bring up number 10 for us, Doc. Giffords is doing their annual rating system of various criminals in DC. And so today, we're proud to endorse 15 of the strongest gun safety champions for re-election. Gun safety champions. I just love how they just constantly come up with all these names and phrases for themselves and whatever it is they're doing. They're champions of gun safety. Mm-hmm. These leaders are at the forefront of gun safety movement and have advanced historic life-saving legislation. They've advanced that historic life-saving legislation, the most comprehensive in 30 years, folks, but we need more. We know they'll continue the fight to save lives in 2024. So here, thank you, Giffords. For those of you watching, now you have all the names of the people you want to vote against.
Yeah, that's true. But here's the thing, and I gotta say the slimy salamander in the room, Tim, because elephant's overused. So the big thing here is all these people are safe Democrat votes. Like, these are not like, ooh, they're swing states.
Right.
They might make it. They might not make it. Let's just go down this for a second. Lucy McBath, pretty solidly blue, very gun control, mom's man action. Jerry Nadler, the high-waisted fiend. Yeah. He's so awesome. Jamie Raskin, he's a peach.
Yeah.
Mike Thompson, the chairman of the Gun Violence Archive or Gun Violence Prevention Task Force in the House.
Yep.
That's a good one. Maxwell Frost, the youngest person of Congress, who's all gun control from Florida. You've got Rosa DeLorio, who is like that really old Crypt Keeper looking one that has purple hair. That's that one.
God, she's annoying.
You've got the who's who here. But, man, if we just support them, they might make it. Man, child, please. Yeah. These are so solid, it's stupid.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
Come on.
Yeah. So it's just so funny that they post this nonsense out there. And I guarantee you they started doing this because the NRA has its own rating system that they rate politicians on their freedom score or whatever. And so, I mean, GOA and other groups do it as well. So Giffords is just trying to jump in on their party and, with their own little lists. But like you said, it's more or less just a, hey, look at me type of stunt, because the people they're promoting here, like, go vote for them. Well, they're not going anywhere. They're in strong blue bastions of, tyranny. So anyway, all right, folks, look forward to your comments down below. Thank you for watching Second Legacy, and we'll talk to you guys soon.